Arkans here. I've had a lot of people talk to me about ape hangers, and there's a lot of misconceptions out there about ape hanger bars on cruisers. They're not all for style. Don't get me wrong, you want a set that looks good, but they got to be functional, which means they don't need to be above your head like, some guys do, where they reach up. And I don't understand having them 4 foot above the bike. Extreme modifications like that are, I guess the best way to phrase it, are ignorant. But each their own. I've seen some that stretch back toward the rider, where they kind of sit back and relax, and that's cool, but they're really killing their lower back. I'll explain why here in a minute, but usually I run an 18-inch ape hanger with 3 to 4 inch risers, depending. That really puts my bars at around 21, 22 inches up from the neck, or up from the triple tree. I also adjust mine forward, not back. And the reason behind that is quite simple. And when I'm running my bars, I'm running them to force me to sit up and sit forward, keeping my spine aligned. So I run a soft tail. Most soft tail seats, they have a slight curve in them, and when your bars are too low or too far back toward the rider, you grab a hold of them and you wind up rocking back in that seat, and you get your spine out of alignment. When you get on a rough road, and your lower spine, it really takes abuse. So by reaching up and forward for my controls, I force better posture upon myself. I'm less likely to try to rock back into my seat, and at the end of a long ride, my back's going to feel a whole lot better than if I rocked back. And you kind of subconsciously rock back. Everybody nowadays, for the most part, leans back in their cars, whatever. And you got recliners, your seats. It's poor posture. And on the bike, when your spine's not lined up straight, you're going to pay for it in pain. So that's why I run an ape hanger handlebar. Sitting up, sitting forward, reaching up, and keeping my spine aligned. I've heard the rumors, or heard people talk about, well, ape hangers are affecting your center of gravity, which is a load of horse crap. Especially when it's coming from sport bike riders whose bikes ride so high anyway. You measure where a sport bike rider rides versus where a cruiser rider rides, and their bodies are up top, their bikes are below them, and they're top heavy, because look at where you're at. You've got more weight higher up on the bike than what I'm doing just by raising my arms up. So I don't know where that myth came from. The second thing is, they say it's dangerous because you have less control of the bike, which is another load of horse crap, because I feel I have better control over my bike with the ape hangers versus a lower bar. I get up, I lean, I ride, and I have fun. I enjoy it. So, and then then I always hear the arguments, well, with your arms up like that, you're going to have less or poorer circulation through your hands to your extremities, because of your reaching up. And when people tell me that, I ask them to go sit down inside their car. And most cars, it's that way. Not all, but most cars. And when you get settled in and sit down in your car and get your seat adjusted right, I want you to place your hands at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel. That's where they're supposed to be. 10 and 2. And when you put your hands at 10 and 2, and now look at where they're at in relation to your shoulders. You're right at shoulder height, maybe a little under, maybe a little over. But that's where your arms are, at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel of your car. So when you try to tell me, well, on the bike it's different, no, it's not. I put mine at 10 and 2 on my when I drive. 10 to 11, 12, 1, 6. My hands kind of go everywhere. It just depends on how I feel. But on the bike, I like reaching up for my bars, and I like keeping my back straight, and that's why I do it. I have just as much control as anybody else on their bikes. You know, these guys on these sport bike cruiser riders want to downplay or talk bad about cruiser riders and their modifications, but what I'm telling you is don't believe the hype. Those ape hangers serve a purpose, and there's a reason we run them. They're not for everybody. If they're not for you, fine, don't put them on your ride, but they are for me. They're for a lot of other riders out there, and they've experienced the same thing I have. They have better posture when they're riding by reaching up and sitting forward on their bike, and that helps them. So there's why I run ape hangers, and I hope I've busted the myth. You know, I've had people point out to me, you said that, you know, the fact that I do run mine a little higher than shoulder height, I've had people point out to me that in certain states it's illegal for me to have them that bit, you know, above my shoulders. And I'll point out to them that it is legal for me to have them in my state. And if I get a ticket in another state, the first thing I'm going to point out is, well, they are legal in my state, and I've got the right to pass through your state, and you can't force me to change my bike. There's nothing wrong. It doesn't affect safety. It has no say. There's not a safety issue. I can prove that in court. I can prove that wherever I need to. States that write laws like that are they're looking to cash in. They're looking for money, and that's why they pass ignorant laws that make no sense, because they literally and obviously have no clue what they're talking about. And when they do that, hey, it's on them. I'll beat them in court every time.